My heart sunk into my chest when I first unboxed the A7S III. I shot a project with 422 10-bit. I inserted the SD card into my Mac, and lo and behold, I saw stuttering and frame dropping on playback in my editor of Final Cut Pro. I was like, what the heck is wrong with my computer? What the heck is wrong with my camera? I was also really upset when all this talk about Sony Catalyst came out and I attempted to use it on my iMac. And when I attempted to export the stabilized footage, it took forever to export a 30-second clip, like between 90 seconds and 2 minutes. So as far as I was concerned, Sony Catalyst was out, because what if I had 100 clips in my project that I needed to throw through Catalyst? No thank you. I thought maybe my computer needed a good old-fashioned reboot. So I restarted my computer, I wiped my brow, and I got back into Final Cut Pro. But I was still experiencing stuttering on my footage with that 422 footage and 2 to 3 minute exports with Sony Catalyst. Here are the specs. So you're telling me not even a 2-year-old iMac with 64 gigs of RAM could not even handle the latest and greatest technology out of the Sony camera? And is this how it's always gonna be? So your computer that you buy right now is gonna be out of date in 2 years because of the technology that comes out with cameras in 2 years? So you get about a 2-year lifespan before it's outdated with whatever technology camera companies are providing us with in the future. I know I could add proxies to edit the 422 10-bit footage, but what the heck are proxies anyways? And who wants the extra steps and workflow that creates? I don't like when things are added to my workflow, and even though I could probably figure out how to use proxies and to work them into my workflow, I just didn't want to waste the time. I found out that I could shoot in 420 10-bit, and that was fine, but it still was kind of unsettling that I couldn't utilize the highest quality video available out of my Sony A7S III. If you're a little lost on what 422 is compared to 420, the short answer is it's better. The longer answer is 422 pixels will have cleaner value, data points, the number of possible. So the bottom line is 422 is better. So then the new MacBook Pro M1 chip comes out, and it has raving reviews by all of our favorite YouTubers, so I needed to get my hands on one to see if it could handle these files and how well it could handle them, especially with Catalyst. And that's what we're gonna test out and talk about in today's video. Let's start off with some footage I shot in 60 frames per second in 422 10-bit on my A7S III of the MacBook Pro with my beloved table dolly. When I put this onto my iMac, here's how bad the footage plays back. And you can even see how it has a stutter when I scrub. Even when the library renders the footage, it still doesn't play back like it should. Now imagine an entire project shot in 422 10-bit, how frustrating that would be. Now let's look at how the MacBook Pro can handle the 422 10-bit footage. Look at that, silky smooth, with no stuttering, freezing, or dropping frames. It's pretty unbelievable that anyone could really edit 422 footage with this new MacBook Pro. So it may be a good idea for anybody who needs a more powerful Mac, who needs to edit higher quality footage, to pick up one of these and just get yourself an external monitor that you can use to have a bigger screen. Once you hook up a monitor to this MacBook Pro, you would have a pretty sick setup, and that's a fraction of the cost of what a new iMac costs. There are a ton of USB-C ports on the side, something that my iMac does not have a lot of. In fact, it only has 2. And then you'll just have to replace it in 2 years once the technology from our cameras gets even better. Now let's talk about Sony Catalyst. To make a boring video short and sweet, I shot some handheld footage with the Sony ZV-E10, and then I threw the footage into the Catalyst browser. And by the way, remember that when you plan on using Catalyst Browse, you have to turn in-camera stabilization off in your camera. So I tried to export this clip with my iMac, and for a 20-second clip, I was getting about 1 minute on the export time. So that's about 3 times the amount of the actual clip. Now let's go to the MacBook Pro. I was actually getting about 2 minutes on the export, so 6 times the amount of the actual clip. That's an interesting find, because when I export the same 4K clip out of Final Cut Pro on the iMac, it took about 15 seconds. But the MacBook Pro only took 13 seconds. So if you're into Catalyst Browse for your Sony cameras, then the new MacBook Pro M1 would not be in your list of hacks when you make a video of how to use it. I'm not into Catalyst Browse, so it's no sweat off my back. I'm more into gimbals and getting the shot right in camera the first time around so you don't have to go out and use other software to try to stabilize your footage. Also, I don't like the fact that you have to raise the shutter speed up, even though for maybe a YouTube video you can't tell. I like to be in complete control of my cameras and I try to stay in manual exposure as much as possible. I'm also not a fan of the extra steps that you have to take in your workflow, so the MacBook Pro would be the perfect setup for me. So yeah, I highly recommend the MacBook Pro if you're a Sony shooter, a 422 user, or a Catalyst non-user. And until the next video, I'm Joe with the Film Alliance, or should I say Joe with Film Science. This video is for Sony shooters, Catalyst users, and 422 cruisers. Hey, I'm a poet and I don't even know it. I hope I don't blow it. Maybe a little late to the party when it comes to this new MacBook Pro with the new M1 Pro chip, but I still had some questions about how strong it could hold up with higher quality video clips and the new Sony gyro chip. Or should I say, how resilient is this thing when it comes to video editing? Oh, it's questions I haven't seen other YouTubers talk about in their video shticks. And just so you know, this is the base 14-inch model sponsorship. Just kidding, it's not sponsored. But it did rhyme with it. But enough with the rhymes, let's get down to the nitty-gritty and ask the questions that we need to have answered. Today on Film Alliance.